Welcome to another FaceHAMMER show. It's me, Russ. I'm joined by co-host Byron and our very special guest, Alex. And we're going to talk about the Mancunian Carnage summer, and it has been summer, Jesus, 2022.
It's fantastic for painting motivation. It's brilliant.
I'm so glad I decided to take stuff I already had painted. I'm not rubbing it in. But I am. I've got to paint this though, because everyone needs one now.
That's hard for you.
It would be a purple sun, would it be, Russ?
It would be a purple fun sun, and mine's got all the gaps filled.
Yeah,
because
it's fun to paint and play with.
It's atrocious on every level.
Apparently, it's quite popular with my stepson, who said it looks like a big virus.
It does actually.
Pete said that. Yeah, it looks like a big COVID.
As popular as COVID, Purple Sun returns.
So what we need by Christmas is the vaccine rollout from Games Workshop, or FAQ as we call it, to sort it out. Please don't inject bleach into your veins to try and stop yourself getting purple sun. It doesn't work. Unlike Donald Trump's advice. Mind as you go. Just don't drink a whole pint of bleach. No, so we're going to talk about Mancunian Carnage, which is coming up this weekend. We'll talk some lists, some stats, talk about for what we're taking. There is a chance I won't be able to make it, depending on railway workers deciding not to go to work, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully.
Bring your cats, Russ. Bring your cats, it'll be fine.
Yeah, you just want the cats.
Yeah,
I'm going to carry 2 cats and my army and my clothes, and then Clara will get back and go, "Where are the cats?" And I'll be like, "I took them to Manchester." She'd not be happy with me. Yeah. Although I did have a weird experience when I went on the train last, and the guy had like cats in a backpack, and he was getting feeding bowls out for them on the train. It was very weird.
Why not?
Was it Byron?
No, it wasn't. No. I hope they were his cats, not someone he just found. Anyway, so let's talk about Warhammer. So, welcome to the show, Alex. People who don't know,
hello.
You are the organizer of the Mancunian Carnage. You've been on the show before, so thanks for joining us.
Pleasure, as ever.
Another one.
I don't know. You can talk a bit about yourself if you want.
What's the purpose of your event? Why do you do it?
Well, mostly fun, but then, the purple sun happened. I think most people know by now. I run an event where you can come and have some fun and play some Warhammer. I think the majority of people who've actively spoken to me about the event this weekend, the Warhammer is secondary to drinking a lot.
That's because you run such a good event.
Oh, well, that is nice. Drinking a lot, talking lots of rubbish, doing some silly things, doing the interesting quiz, and some people want to watch a fight between some men later on. There's some boxing apparently going on.
I just thought it was another like Ben Savard lorry incident, and I didn't know about because I haven't looked at Twitter. But
we could
engineer that.
Some fisticuffs.
Yeah.
Park fisticuffs. I'm sure
that's nice events for that.
I never want to disappoint. But yeah, people hopefully be fairly convivial. I've forgotten how long I've been running it now. It's evolved from a tiny little thing in Eccles to being like literally taking up the whole of Element Games the past 2 times round. There's the last singles one this year. There's a team in November, which is also packed the rafters. I think there's a reserve list with a couple of teams on there. And I'll be back again in May next year for singles, which I will heavily comp. This is the version of the event that I have not comped. The meta is settling down. You can love me or hate me for that. I think a lot of people are going to hate me for it because some of the lists are really extreme. But if that isn't your bag, you want to play in a slightly softer field towards the end of this GHB next May, I will go absolutely bananas on anything that offends me. But most of the Seraphon book, regardless of how good they are at that point in time. Probably all the Sylvaneth, but other things as well.
You do have well, I don't know if it's comp, but you have said that there's no incarnates, right? So
yeah, because it's shit and the rules are stupid.
That's true. Apparently, they're releasing it as a single kit now. Even after the only way to buy it is in that big mega scenery set, but they're going to start selling
with different rules, right?
No.
Like the rules too. No, okay. Well, it's
fine.
still staying.
It's totally
it's
fine.
Still a
staying.
piece of narrative gaming and competitive play. So
Yeah,
I had to read that scroll like 5 times to even understand to a basic level what I was supposed to do to get it off the table. And I'm still not convinced I really understand.
We just like to write rules within rules that break rules, so we have to write more rules explaining how the rules are broken, but only when they're broken, but not when they're broken at this time, because we want that bit of the rule, but not that bit, and we're going to add another layer on top of the onion and then call it a salad. Age Sigma. So, so that's it, really. That's like you say, no comp, but you do have your secret special extra missions. Where you've got like hidden agendas, which give you extra tournament points. So quite interesting.
Yeah, they haven't changed from May. So anyone who listened to that show or was at that event, they're all kind of loosely themed around like a line from a film, like "The Dead Cost Nothing," which is a line from Braveheart. So basically, take some allies or mercenaries and get them killed in a game. If you manage to do that, you get 5 tournament points. So there's a good way of like racking up some points if you don't think you're going to win the game. And I did introduce an award or trophy for that. So the lowest placed player with the highest points for my secondaries will get the From the Ashes award. Shout out to Hugh Wilson, who would have won that in May. Hugh wasn't with the amazing Seraphon Army. He actually scored all of his secondaries. He didn't win any games. So he would be awesome. He'd have been the outright winner. And I know there's a couple of people who are actually gunning specifically for that trophy. So yeah, I think they're always good fun. It's an extra.
I was talking about bloodthirsty before we started this call, wasn't I? Like, it's quite nice to turn up and be like, well, I don't think I can do that, but I can have a go at this.
Yeah. It's a really strong field. There's a lot of people from like the Wales and England kind of roster of international players. So the podium's probably already spoken for. So it's nice that there's a little bit extra.
Well, you never know. Everyone has their days, don't they? So
they do.
Some people want it more.
Some people.
That's the problem. So I did. I did actually change some of my list decisions because of the missions. So I took levitate on one of my heroes because I've only got one model in my army with the fly word. So to get the eagle coming, I need 2 units.
Try hard now, Russ.
You got to read the pack, haven't you? So
well,
the problem is,
I checked if there was a bloodthirsty award, and there wasn't. Then I carried on paying.
The problem is, there's a lot of them I just instantly can't do because I'm playing OBR. So it's kind of like I was like, well, I need to do something.
But there's an award for that as well.
What for playing OBR? There should be.
Poor limping.
I've forgotten what I've called this award. So the oldest 7 books, the Underdog Award. There is a 1, 2, 3 for the placement of the oldest books. So that covers OBR
or something.
I moved it to 7, but if you go to 8, that's Slaves to Darkness, and actually that doesn't feel like it really deserves to be there. Especially as I know that there are a couple of quite good Slave to Darkness list comics that seemed ridiculous. So like Ogre Morg Tribes, Gits, Beasts of Chaos, Oziark, Bone Men. There's a couple of others as well.
Flesh Eaters,
Flesh Eaters,
for sure.
Yeah. There's a good effect list coming. So yeah, they're another 1, 2, 3 as well. I think there's like about 20% of the people coming are likely to get an award. So there's a lot of trophies.
No pressure if you don't get one, right?
Yeah, you're really pathetic.
Yeah. Like, is this a step away from when tournaments are just well done for actually sticking with the game and learning all the rules and being able to play at a competitive level? Here's a participation award. Is that it's
moving towards one of those sports days where even like the chuffy kids who
that's what I was getting at.
You get a medal. Yeah, we're not quite there. Like you aren't just.
You aspired to be able to remember all of the rules of this edition Like,
Yeah.
well done,
Well
sir.
done. You
Well done
managed.
for your attempt.
It's the train.
That's where I'm going to be.
Yeah, cool. So that's basically the pack. I won't go into too much detail. You can go check it out. We got some little graphs and pies and stats of what's coming, right? So, a little bit of pie. We should do that.
Gonna be pie on Friday too.
Yeah. So the first one I've got is the named unique leaders graph. I guess it's a graph. So do you want to talk through the sort of what it means?
Yeah, I can talk through it. It won't take long because it's like a little flat plateau of like 1 or 2 appearances of named characters, and then it's like, oh, you're here for 2 or 3 people who appear a lot. So most armies have got a named character. There's only about 25 that don't. There's Belladama Volga, Big Drog Fork Kicker makes an appearance in a list. Don't see him out very often. Steve Curtis is bringing him. There's one Gotrek rearing his little ginger head. Boo. Only one Kragnos, which is a bit of a shame.
I think unusual that.
Given that one of the most represented factions is Iron Jaws or at War Clans, I do find that quite surprising. But I think the Purple Sun has led to a bit of a drop in the amount of these characters.
Yeah, but he's immune to that. So, well.
So immune, is
pretty
he?
much. Because he can't be killed by it. Because he's got an
and
he's also got an ignore shield.
It's like 2/3. Well, it's a third of your army, and it's pretty much the only thing in your army that does anything if you've taken him. I'm not sure I'd risk that. Not if I was taking anything very seriously.
He can't be auto-killed, though.
Can he not?
No. He's got a rule.
Oh,
stops him.
On his updated scroll, I think it's D6, isn't it?
Yeah, D6 mortals. And he's got an ignore anyway on a roll 3d6 and beat the cast value of 8. So,
well, who knows why he's not more Kragnoses? It's a crying shame because he is.
It might just be when people are beefing up core units, like a 700-something point block is going to be the first thing that you drop out.
Is there a Nagash? Any Nagash?
No gash.
No gash.
Just how you like
no
it.
Big hat energy.
There is some big hat energy because I brought Arcan, the true big hat energy.
There are 2 Arcans.
I know, I'm mostly upset about this.
Double appearances, like medium hat energy.
No, Arcan's got the biggest hat. It's a small. It's not model wise, but
proportionally.
Yeah. If you actually look at he's got the biggest hat.
Only beaten by an original Chaos Dwarf.
No.
All about proportions.
About those.
A couple of Croaks, a couple of Scar brands. Khorne is in the underdog.
Yeah.
There was a Khorne army that did very well in May. Mm-hmm. They got an extra 250 points in May, so maybe they'll do relatively well. Then we get into the 3 appearances. We've got Ulroch the Drowner, Alan the Drowner, Alan. And then there are 6 Skaven lists and 6 Thankwalls.
And I'm assuming there are 6 Launchians with those Thankwalls.
Let me get to my endless spell stat. Yes, there are.
What a shock. Internet's great, isn't it? Get in the fucking bin. Sorry.
And then 8 Daughters of Cain armies and 8 Marathis. What a shocker. I mean, that is pretty much an auto-include, but the Thankwall thing is a bit of a shame because that book is so fun for builds, and there's literally one build with a few variations coming, which is rubbish. So that's it for your name heroes.
I'm really disappointed in these Skaven players. Can you be a bit more imaginative, please? You don't need Thankwall. Yeah. Come on.
Who else? Only one Alariel.
Good.
With the silver neck being pretty good. That's just a bit of a surprise.
No, you just spam those Healy Seeker things, don't you? So you don't
Horticular Slimux is coming. I don't think I've ever seen one on a table.
He's not bad. He's
good.
Fairly good utility piece. It's the
Nurgle book. Quite well to some of the Nurgle battle tactics, so I can understand why that's being built in.
Yeah.
That's good.
I've
seen him a few times. So
Yeah, it's a nice model. I've had him on my painting shelf a couple of times and intended to do it, but never quite got around to it. So yeah, that's your lot for your named heroes. A few little surprises.
Should we talk about the not so surprising endless spell pie or donut?
Oh, it's the donut of disappointment and predictability.
35% purple sun.
It is 35% purple sun. There's 20 purple suns.
It's totally fine.
Just ridiculous.
It's totally fine.
I am going to do a group shot of them. We have to have at one point all 20 purple suns on a table.
That would look amazing, actually.
As well conceived in physical design as its current iteration of the rule design.
Do you know what you should do? You should have an army which is battle tone purple sun. Purple sun is 100 points, so you can have 20 of them. And you set them up at the beginning of the game and they just move in a line.
Just play chess. Move twice in the first turn, right?
Hope you roll lots of ones as you pass them.
I think I would take that list because it sounds like I would need to think very much, which you don't if you put any purple sun on. So 20 purple sun. We next is up is 9 chronomatic cogs.
No surprise, absolute bargain.
Yeah. It's pretty sound. There's a lot of casters
ease of solid points value as well. Frequently, you're going to have about that free.
Yeah. Speaking of which, then we talked about Laoshon. The next sort of selection, which are taken 2 or 3 times, are because they're quite good points values. They just sit in that kind of top up at the end of lists, like Ravanax, Gnashing Jaws. There's 3, a couple of Life Swarms, which is still quite useful for some armies. There's 3 Soul Scream Bridges. We tend to find amongst big units.
Yeah.
No, there's only one Cities Army. It's not in there.
No.
Storm Fiends. There's a couple of big blocks of Storm Fiends.
Skaven and the endless spell crutches.
There's a couple of like faction specific ones. The Bone Tithe Shrieker, literally no idea what that does. There's 2 of those.
I've got that.
What does it do?
So everything within 12 inches, you are +1 to hit against with your whole OBR, so your whole army, and every unit within 12 cannot use Inspiring Presence or Rally.
Good.
Plus, with the heroic action from White Dwarf, you can auto cast it, and it cannot be unbound.
How much is that?
60.
That's quite pricey, but that is good.
Combat, because you can't do all that attack with OBR, so it's like your ghetto all out attack. But what's nice about it is there's no immune to battle shock or Inspiring Presence or rallying, and they can't unbind it if you use your heroic action. But I will be using my cannot unbind heroic action to put this bad boy on the table. So auto cast can't unbind my purple sun, and Arcan gives me an extra 6 inches, and I've been told that's important to have an extra 6 inches.
6 of them. Some of us don't need it.
No,
you do.
I'm just staggering around with 1 inch reach on the cabbage.
But yeah, it's like the vampire lord of his lance. Flog that dead horse again.
Yeah, I just stopped making that joke a while ago. I think we should all just let that one die. Let it die.
Let it go. No, I will not. So I would say surprising, but not really, is it?
No, not one bit.
Should we move on to the other non-surprising chart and possibly the best chart I've ever done in my life?
Oh, is this I got this one, hang on.
The Universal Artifacts.
The Arcane Tome chart.
It's a one piece of information chart. 27 Arcane Tomes. It's the only Universal Artifact that anyone has taken. I didn't need to do a graph for it, but I have. It looks like a stubby.
Yeah. I love it. I 100% would have done a graph for it because it's funny, and you did.
It's glorious.
It is Arcane Tome.
Yeah, it's like it's modern art.
It is. It's less said about that the better, really, isn't it?
Yeah, we can probably.
So Grand Alliances.
Did I do a chart for this?
I've got this. Yeah, got it in front of me. So the late sub faction coming in at some number, almost 30 order.
Yeah, predominantly. I mean, they've just got the most books, haven't they? So that's hardly a shocker.
Not really, just that.
And none of this is very surprising. Well, that and like $8 K or whatever it is crazy. I guess that's not very interesting. I'm not thinking there's any surprises there. Destruction are quite well represented. I guess that's.
They normally are at your events, though, aren't they? I think perhaps.
Yeah, I don't know why.
But by a bit, they're fun.
I think Destruction are normally well presented everywhere. Like because they're a fun army that.
They're beloved, aren't they?
There's actually quite a lot of death comparison to normally when you go to events. So nice to see.
People excited for a revamp on certain units getting
revamp.
Better.
I just decided to not take life seriously and just roll out my OBR again because I was just like
roll out your purple sun.
Well, that's a bit of a meme. I was going to take Nagash and then I realised that literally none of the abilities work with him, so there's no point.
It's a waste of time.
It's completely it's complete trash.
Let's have a look at the breakdown on Death. So Death is the prevailing faction is Night.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and four of those. Sorry, 5 of them. 4 are Scarlet Doom, 1 Emerald Host. You got 3 Soulblight Grave Lords. You got a couple of Flesh Eater Courts, and then a couple of Bone Eaters. So, I mean, it's a fairly rounded representation of the faction.
Yeah. It was quite small. That's quite small. So that's pretty decent within that.
That's not bad. Nighthaunt, obviously, pretty good at the moment. There's a couple of quite good players with Nighthaunt armies. I've not seen them on the table much yet, so I'd be curious to see what they do. The breakdown, like the further breakdown of those factions.
Yeah, I've got that now, so we could talk about that. So,
Brill. So we've got. Sorry, Russ, I'm taking over. This does happen. No. I've had several.
You're here to talk, so it's fine. It's not about me.
Good.
Come on, Fun Hitler. Let's go.
Don't call me Fun Hitler, please. It's not the first time someone's used that.
The only reason I didn't call him that the other day is I couldn't find an appropriate combo of emojis to suggest it.
I really think you should move on to the chart.
That was one of my more militant pub crawls, where I drew a line on the floor and told people who wanted to come and do the pub crawl to stand over on one line with me, and those people who just wanted to have fun and not take it seriously to go on the other line. I was talked down, but that is a thing that did happen. Anyway, faction breakdown.
I really hope
come to my event.
Did the Picard speech about not crossing the line before the line must be drawn here.
No, not all the people I know are complete uber nerds. So most people just looked at me with a withering glance of pity and then went and ordered another beer before I blew my whistle, because they only had 17 minutes in each pub to drink said beer before we needed to go. Moving on. The faction breakdown. Most represented faction, as we've alluded to, is Auric Warclans. And then Daughters of Cain, Fun Times, Skaven, Maggotkin. They have 6 each, and then 5 Nighthaunt, and then we get into the change, really.
Yeah. Bit of a drop from Maggotkin. No longer the new thing.
No. There's a lot of players who are coming in this time around who I know have stuck with them for quite a while. So I think like the toe in the water, hot new thing players have probably already ditched them and moved on to something else.
Just got bored of playing with them.
I think like people who play Maggotkin probably like playing Nighthaunt, and also Auric Warclans is kind of that similar sort of fit to them. So
really good model selection. Probably like 3 of the
I've
best
played all 3 of those armies. I think
there we go.
Possibly slightly telling. Yeah, I really enjoy playing Maggotkin, although I've now flogged them, and I obviously enjoy Aurochs, and all the green ones because they're the best ones. They're just the fun ones. Fuck it. Seraphon only 4.
Yay!
I still think they're ridiculous, and I haven't comped them, so I'm slightly surprised there are more. Obviously, the change to the new GHB and FAQs or wherever the hell those rules are has slightly.
I think the battle scroll hurt them quite a bit, so
has clipped their wings in a similar way to my comp, I guess.
I think anyone playing that book for its power levels had 0 emotional investment in the army. So at the point at which it's not, I should stop saying nasty things. But the people who are playing it now are probably people who quite enjoy the theme of it and have got quite pretty armies and have stuck with it for a while. you'd imagine.
There's 2 players coming and playing Seraphon who are probably the most dedicated Seraphon players in the entire Warhammer scene. So
Yeah,
and
comment definitely applies the 2.
Please don't be that guy who brings Seraphon purely for power, but then thinks wearing a dinosaur top makes it okay.
Makes it okay.
Yeah, you've got to convert every single model in your army and have it basically look like you've dumped the forest on the table. Otherwise, we don't believe you.
Hugh Wilson is literally doing that. He does that every event.
Does.
It's amazing. And it's all what is unbelievable about it. It's always a new set of models. Like he will not bring. I think he's Dreadsaurian. He might be bringing again, but every other model will be bringing.
It gets
it.
better each time as well. The conversions get better and better. Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't follow him on Twitter, I think he's Scrunty, but yeah, his stuff's amazing. He's coming, and so is James Beeden, who is like the most dedicated Seraphon player on the planet. I don't think he's ever beaten me, and I've played him quite a lot of events recently, but my god, he does try with like the most random Seraphon lists. He does not play them for power. He plays them to try and prove a point that the lists that everyone else is taking are not the lists. He's going to play with Saurus Cavalry and 4 Carnosaurs, and he might lose the game, but he'll give it a good go.
If I play him, we would have a hoot. My list and his list, that sounds ridiculous.
Oh, fair play to him. Like he's not having it that Croaks the hot new thing. Saurus Cav, yeah, all the way. I'm not sure he's got game 1, but I do hope he proves his point. There's 4 Fire Slayers lists.
Bit of a rise.
I don't think they're particularly fun to play.
It's a hard book to make fun to play.
They're a lot more fun than they were.
That's true. I think the current book's actually really well considered and balanced, but fundamentally, people who are incredibly slow and the same dragon. The book is it's quite hard to make that exciting, isn't it?
It's
maybe
like
for systematic players.
Yeah, for people like that kind of methodical play, fine, but they are the opposite of like Nighthawk, Maggotkin, and Orcs when it comes to the range, because I genuinely can't tell the difference between.
I do think the 5 Maggotkin draft armies look really quite good actually, because I've got that model, apart from the bits attached to it, like the podium that the guy sits on. I quite like the model.
I can't stand the Fire Slayer models, honestly. I think they're the worst models GW's released for years.
The tattoos,
they're just awful.
The raised tattoos.
It's not even like you can't even paint the skin nicely because they decided to mash those runes on their skin.
Runes in.
If they were cut in, that would have been amazing, because you could have literally like done the skin and then just done like pointed glow washes in, and they would have looked great. But no, they had to raise them, didn't they? Like,
it's a bit a weird decision.
It's a weird continuation of a very niche part of like one old world faction.
I think part of the difficulty is as well, it was a really well realized and beloved part of the old world too. So it's quite a difficult one for people to touch and walk away from without people being disgruntled about it.
For me, I forget they even exist as a faction. Like, if someone says to me like, "Oh, if someone asks me like, are dwarfs in AOS?" I go, "Yeah, there's Kharadron Overlords." I just forget about Fire Slayers. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why.
You just got beige wash. You can't.
I don't know why. I just don't. They never really sat or gripped me, and I never really felt they felt like an afterthought. Like, oh, we like Slayers. Let's just release a Slayer model with slightly different weapons.
They play fairly fair and square on the table. Like, they're not a bad one to play against.
I disagree.
But yeah,
they used to be so. I've said so many non-games against Fire Slayers. So I hate them.
The old book. I think the old book was. The new one's good. I think it's just because it came out at the same time as Deepkin. They just, they're a bit more crazy and funky and wacky. They're both really competent books in my opinion.
I looked for the Deepkin book. I've not played the new Fire Slayers. The old ones, they're just kind of grindy games.
Yeah, I've only played 5 Magma Dross, which is a
very different from my experiences previously. But
it's better than playing against 60 Halfguard or whatever it was.
That is fair.
Or at War Clans, you've broken down further. So mostly Iron Jaws, some big bone splitters and cruel boys.
So, I can't see that. I might have.
That makes sense, really, doesn't it? Like,
you've got older, like % cruel boys. 18% Big War, 9% Bone Splitters, and 54% Iron Jaws.
Yeah, that's about
Yeah,
what I'd expect, really.
yeah, that's about right. There's a Thunderbellies, Ogre War tribes worth noting, but yeah, mostly Iron Jaws. People giving the Big War a go. I know your first round opponent, actually, Mike Chatterton, has been doing Big War for a while and really banging on about it. But he's switched over to full Crawl Boys. I don't know if that's particularly telling of how rubbish Big War is, but yeah, Iron Jaws got some play. I haven't really examined the Iron Jaws lists too much, but I think there's a lot more brutes than there were. People taking a lot more foot sluggers. There's less Kragnoses. Yeah, I think brutes got a big boost with the ranking rules.
I'd see more tens of them now.
Yeah. Much more
Ironically,
viable.
going back to the double choppers rather than the big choppers or whatever they're called. So,
just volume.
Yeah,
that's what they do these days, especially in those. Well, in that crazy battalion, bounty hunters, like that with a war chanter, a unit of 10 brutes spammed across the table, turn one.
When they die,
Who gives them monkeys at that point? It's only like 320 points, but if they've taken down at least twice that with them, then screw it. That's the game.
Big old block, plenty of wounds, plenty of armor. Few rallies. They feel really painful when they rally, actually.
Yeah.
So that's
kind of hard boys if they're doing it on a 4.
All the pies, right? We've done all the pies, I think. The drops
We've
is what
done all the pies. We've not done drops. That was specifically requested by someone. So, this is where you get into sort of techie bits of data that I don't really organise, understand, but I'm just going to say care about. So, there's a lot of the one battalion.
Yeah, a quarter of people have committed to 2 or less, I think, roughly, from a brief scan of it. People have gone pretty seriously for that, and then you get to a point which I think was the 5, if I remember correctly. There's a little divot, and then it's just the people who couldn't quite fit in or went warlord because they like items or stuff like that, and then added on. I wouldn't be surprised if there's multiple lists that have got 3 battalions. So I can see that pretty warlord.
Collected, but I should do next time. Yeah, there were from memory. Yeah, there were quite a few with 3. So quite a few take advantage of the one drop.
Yeah,
but also squeeze in like the command entourage, or a warlord to get the extra.
Yeah, or just people going like warlord, bounty hunters, and then something else.
Expert conquerors, probably.
Yeah. In which case you're at 8, 9, something like that.
I've got the breakdown of battalions, actually. It might be one of the ones I sent you. So there's 38 battle regiments, 45 bounty hunters. Not a shot, really. There's a couple of Stormcast battalions being taken. Command entourage, 22. Expert conquerors, 26. 21 warlords. 3 vanguards. I've forgotten what vanguard even does. Is that
the
double for free?
Charge?
It's the reroll charge or the auto run one.
Good. Underrated.
I think I might have Vanguard just for the extra RDP point. Because it's cheap to fit in. I think I might have it. That was in one of my lists, so I might have dropped it.
You need 2 troops, I think.
And a hero.
Super cheap. Okay, yeah.
I think it's something like that, yeah.
I don't think we've ever been at a point where it's that easy to get 3 battalions in that frequently, or there's that many people doing
it's quite telling that bounty hunters is more represented than battle regiment, and that's kind of saying something, because they're almost diametrically opposed, aren't they? That if you take bounty hunters, you're not going to be a low drop, so you just automatically take battle regiment.
Definitely you're on this side of the fence, or that side being like 4 or less, or like 7 or more, probably.
I think
it gets to a point where you just kind of have to be like, well, look, I'm not going to be a low drop army, so why even try and compete in that field?
Yeah, exactly.
I toyed around with IDNF going bounty hunters and 1 drop, because having the 2, because I think that was where I was leaning.
I think where you desperately do want at least one of those battalions, you just lean into it, because we've got people with 60. There's actually a decent number of players with 10 plus drops, so 11, 12, 13. There's a 16 drop army. The 16 drop army is, you know, absolutely mental.
You could
but
get five battalions. Oh God, this one's this one. This one's this one. This one's this one. What?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I also don't know sometimes how much that like you have to be properly on the top of your game to really have a good understanding whether first or second turn is completely going to swing it or not for you. And to be honest, I think I get it wrong half the time. So why bother forcing yourself to have that decision, and you can let someone else do it?
Yeah. You just take a resilient army. I mean, if you had more Nurgle in there, I'd expect the drops to be higher as well. You know, like there were last time. There's a lot of Maggotkin players.
You know, deploy in a cagey way, and if you've got more drops, it gives you more opportunity to do that anyways. You're not putting your cards all on the table.
Certain armies are very good at it, but I guess with people wanting to literally, you know, game plan, turn up, have powerful way to get off, predictable derpy spell, hopefully do it before my opponents had to go, or if I'm not worried about their first go, give me a chance to do it twice.
Some armies just need that shock and awe, don't they? Like I think Skaven are quite a fragile army, so you don't really want them doubling you, and you kind of want to dictate the turns. So
they can also fit quite nicely, especially if you've got one expensive character, and given that all of them have got Thanquol, they fit quite nicely into being one or two drop army.
It's that weird one, because when I was writing Skaven lists, I went down the route of putting in pre-game movers, night runners, and or allying in. No, that's the wrong army. Yeah, but yeah, putting in like pre-game move things. So basically, you don't care about low drop because
you get like 9-10 drops, something like that, and just
and you've got the teleports and everything. You don't really care about it. And I sometimes think when you've got that kind of teleporty list and you let someone deploy, then take the first turn, there's so often people move their first turn and make an error on leaving something open because they have to shuffle stuff around, and then they start doing weird stuff like, oh, I want to do this objective, but that means I have to like move here and then leave a gap behind and then all that sort of stuff. So I don't know, it's interesting. I think some armies just like to have a predefined plan going in. I mean, with my OBR, literally I just don't care because my army's resilient and I just like whatever, you know. I'm just going to push my men across the table. So
and you've got reach as well with it, haven't you? You've got plenty of threat.
I mean, it's not a good army, I know that, but it's like it's fine. You know, it should be all right.
It has that option.
You got your son to throw at people from long distance.
I don't even think I'd be casting it much. It's more just if someone turns up with some bullshit, at least I've got someone to answer to it, because so many times there's like these big superheroes you just can't kill, and it's just like, well, actually, like just having a purple sun is just sometimes you're just like, well, that just solved that problem.
They're going to put a mechanic that's silly in the game. You're going to take it for that reason.
It's 70 points to give me something that could kill a big hero at distance. Like a 1 in 6.
400, 500 points to your opponent's army out.
It's the big valuable stuff that I think it's the threat against.
Yeah.
There are 2 lists in here that have got quite a lot of the Store Drake Guard. They have almost totally dropped off the radar. But if I was running those into a purple sun, I'd
be shitting yourself,
poopy pants. Yeah, really bad.
It's all the stuff good like positioning. The support heroes and stuff like that. Like if you do it and you just happen to pop up like their 2 gladiatrixes or something stupid, you're just like, well, that's that problem was
War
a lot easier. Yeah,
War chances, anything like that'd be grim. It is turn up with 1 and it's gone. And it's like, oh, and also I'm at -1 to save with my poopy army.
And I took the mentality of, do I buy a 215 point catapult, which is pretty crap? Or do I pay 70 points for a sun? Don't really have to make any choices of dropping anything out my army because I've saved that many points with the drops they made, and it can do a better job.
Yeah. Also do some techie stuff with spells, like your catapult can't get in the way, you know, over there, can it? Because it's here and it can move 7 maximum.
I'm not sure I want to be hugging the purple sun with its -1 armor save aura, but yeah, it's it's not great in my list because I don't have shooting, but
yeah.
I did think about a catapult list with the sun because it kind of
it's quite a lot of
boosts the catapult, because they don't have rend, so like damage 5, but then you're -1 armor, so it's kind of gives you rend.
Yeah.
So
yeah, against infantry, it's not that bad, is it? Yeah.
It's good against most things. Like when they can't all out defense out of it. Like if you got a 3-up save normally and they go to a 2-up, if that puts them back up to a 3-up, suddenly if they've got to roll like 4 or 5 3-up saves and it's 5 damage, that's still scary, you know.
Yeah, it can really hurt.
Whereas if it's a 2-up save, you just don't care. So,
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So that's your kind of your charts and pies and stuff. So maybe we should talk about some lists, and probably to start with what we're taking is probably a good idea. So Byron, you're
You go first, Russ.
yeah, I go first. If you're not settled on your list yet, is that the?
I'm still painting my list.
Right,
But
okay.
I could list the models that my. So I think basically I would have liked to have taken either 3 cabbages or cabbage patch Kragnos. But I can't do one more big gribbly, so I'm gonna pop a rogue idol in my list, which will basically be minimum battle line boys, 2 cabbages, rogue idol, and then a couple of foot characters, and that'll be it. So it's just
You're playing
like,
Iron Suns, right?
yeah,
As a
just
carry
up the
charges
guts,
and, yeah.
cabbage times.
Did you settle on taking Gordrak, or you still go with a normal more crusher?
It just depends what's gonna get me the prettiest models in there. I don't think there's too much of a difference between them. Like he's got use in if you've got more than one more crusher, I think he's got use. If you've only got one, I think you'd be Matt's taken.
Is his command ability called something different so you can do both of them in the same turn though? Is that
the thing about his is it's not specific to Iron Jaws, so
Yeah.
you could issue to 3 units, one of which would be Kragnos, but then there's only one list you can make out of that.
Right, yeah. And you still can't receive more than one, can you? So you can't like double up on someone. Yeah.
No, but you can get very, very efficient, like frontage of.
But you could
3.
move 6 units rather than 3, right? So.
Yeah, but the amount you've spent points, it wouldn't even matter anyway, because you've just got these 3 things you care about, and then the rest of your list is like 85 points times 3. Yeah. You don't get much else in there. Yeah, I'll be running. It should look quite good by the time I've done it, hopefully. But it's just going to be 3 monsters that run as fast as possible and far too few legs.
Hope for the best.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good job. I got a really good player first round then.
It'll be an absolute pleasure if I get to play someone nice.
Who you
Steve Curtis.
Steve Curtis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tough one.
Let him fuck me gently.
So I've got to. I'm taking Ossiot Berrypiz, as we alluded to. I'm in Petrifix Elite. I did toy with taking Null Myriad for some ignore spell stuff with RDP, but there's some weird rules interactions with that to do with auras, and quite frankly I didn't want to have to think about how to explain to my opponent how I think it should work and then give Alex a really awkward rules question. Yeah, so and I just thought I'd just go with Petrifix, it's easy. So my grand strategy is actually Unrelenting Efficiency, which is the White Dwarf one, which basically means at the end of the game have either a unit of Death Riders or Mortek Guard with the same number of models they started the game with, which should be fairly easy with my army because I've got 2 units of 20 Mortek and 5 Cavalry. So that's the reason I've taken the Cavalry over another unit of Stalkers, which I think are better, or a unit of Harbingers, because I just thought actually the Cavalry give me access to some battle tactics on the White Dwarf as well. So I can actually bring those models back because they got 3 wounds each. So I thought I'd take those instead. So I've got Arcan, Big Hat Energy, knows all the lore. He's great. He's auto included in OBR in my opinion. Immortals and Soul Mason, and he's actually I've given him the Godbone armor because I wanted to spread the protection around a bit because my wizard's a bit more important. He's got Empower Nadrite Weapon, so he's the wrong trousers man. I've gone for Immortals and Bone Shaper. He shouldn't have the artifact on there as well. I need to say that off. And he's got the spell Levitate, which is because of the fly mission. So I can make a unit fly, Arcan and the unit. That's the objective done. Liege Cavalos, who's got the Mighty Arcosian command trait as my general, and he's got the artifact Helm of the Ordained, which is a 12-inch bubble. Everything is +1 a hit. So that's my backup if I don't use the Bone Type Shrieker and I use Purple Sun, or it doesn't go off, I got a backup, so I can use that instead. It also allows me to have it in 2 places on the table. 2 units of 20 Mortec, 5 Death Riders as a battle line. I could have. The other thing I was toying with was making one of the Mortisans a general, and then the Stalkers become battle line. So then I don't have to take the cavalry. So I could take Stalkers, and the 2 units of Mortec, because that's a change that came in the handbook, that you can have, Stalkers as battle line if you do that. I've got unit of 3 Stalkers, just really like them. And I've got a Gothizzar Harvester, and the idea is he sits behind the Mortec. The interesting thing, I've not taken the Bone Shaper before, so I need to paint him, but he can heal stuff. I was thinking about giving him the artifact rather than the Helm of the Ordained, which is you pick a unit and they get a 5-up Deathless save, which actually, if he was stood next to the Harvester and you put it on the Harvester, makes the Harvester a lot harder to kill. And you can heal it with him as well, and with Arcan. So like, it kind of gives your Harvester a lease of life, and that unit becomes very blobby and very hard to kill. But I just thought I don't like having to sit all my models stood next to each other. I kind of like not having the restriction on myself where I have to stay within an inch.
You tie yourself to it, and you also turn up with, just the one plan a bit more, which probably isn't as strong. And
I've got the Bone Type Shrieker and the Purple Sun. So the Bone Type Shrieker is, as I talked about, is kind of my +1 to hit bubble, and it also stops people rallying, because there's some really annoying rally interactions now on 4+, and some of the missions I think they get better rally, and also no inspiring presence. So if people take big blobs of infantry that that I want to churn through with my Mortec, it stops them being. It means they're going to lose a lot more models. So I quite like that. Purple Sun's a bit of a meme. It's not really that good in this list. I think it's just that it's too good as a chance against some things that would cause me problems.
It's matchup dependent, isn't it? It might, because Arcana can autocast it. If you get the right match, then he could.
Well, he can't autocast it, but the Mortisans can. So the 2 foot heroes can, but he does get bonuses to cast it as well. So he can cast it fairly reliably, but it's because heroic action. So you have to do the. But I find with OBR you're generally not doing heroic action because you can't use so many of them. Now I have got the Command Entourage in there, and Expert Conquerors on the Mortec.
Expert Bounty Hunters, what's that, like a combination of 2?
No. And Bounty
Plus
Hunters.
1 damage.
So Bounty Hunters on my Death Riders and my Stalkers, just to give me something that can do extra damage against Galatian veterans. So yeah, that's kind of my thing. So see how it goes. It's a 9-drop army, 2,000 points, so not going to get to use my Triumph. I don't know how good the list is. Probably not very, but hey ho. We'll go for
when
fun.
People are doing funky stuff and taking wacky lists, and so much has changed. There's quite a lot to be said for taking something you understand the nuts and bolts of pretty intimately. You just can rock up and do the same thing you've done in general for the last 3 or 4 years that you've played with them.
Yeah, no, I've kind of just want to take a similar army that I took to Carnage last summer.
Yeah,
it's a very similar army. Slight differences, but it's almost the same. And the reason for that is just because it's quite interesting, like just to take a similar thing and see how much difference makes with the changes, the points adjustments, the new handbook. Because
so much has changed.
I've not played really any of this new handbook before, outside of playtesting, so I don't really know if it's any good. I did have a Slanesh army I was going to do, but I don't have time to paint it, and I'm so glad I decided not to do it because the heat would have killed me. So
washes dry really fast. Kind of helpful.
It's kind of unhelpful, but yeah.
Oh, actually, like sideline.
I've got loads of basing done. Like all my goopy bits dried quickly, but I can't. It's that hard. It just totally slays me. So I feel for anyone who's been completely insane, Byron. and decided to try and paint a list immediately before an event. There's someone else, I think Craig Baton's trying to paint an entire list as well.
I think he's the other OBR player, isn't he?
Oh, cool.
Is he?
Because
Not bad speed painting army. It's good for washes.
Because yes, he is. Yeah. So he's got Arcan, Leech, Cavalos, Mortison Bone Shaper, Mortison Soul Mason, Cavalos Death Riders, Mortek Guard, Stalkers. So he's got Purple. So it's almost the same army as me, to be honest. The difference is he's got Chronomatic Cogs, and he hasn't got the Cavalry. He's got Stalkers.
This is interesting in OBR.
And he hasn't got the Harvester. But other than that, it's the same army.
Both gone for a reroll charge option.
Yeah, but I won't get to use. We were both 2,000 points, so we're never going to get to use it. So.
No, you took a Vanguard, didn't you?
No. You can't use it anyway with OBR.
No.
So all you get is an extra RDP point. It works like the thing where you say, "Oh, I'll have an extra command point."
Oh,
so
yeah,
you can't use it for that.
So that's the reason that he's taking Cog, because he actually gets
you actually can use
charges.
it. Yeah. So Cogs was one of the ones I looked at, but I just wanted more models. The Harvester I wasn't sure about, honestly. I did think the Harvester could be a catapult, and I think legitimately, or another unit of cavalry. I did think about putting 5 more cavalry in and just not bothering with the Harvester. I don't know.
He gives you the option though, doesn't he? Like against certain lists, you're just gonna be like, I'm gonna grind you into the dirt, or like I'm not moving off this objective and I'm more forward than you. It doesn't matter that you Nurgle.
It just causes your opponent to concentrate on it.
Yeah,
and not
protect your characters. Like if you took 5 more horses, they might just kill Arcan.
Well, that's the issue. So that's why you take the Harvester, because it makes them decide what am I going to focus on. I'm not going to say what the right option is. Cool. So that's our list. So did you pick out a few, Alex, you want to talk about?
It's a few saucy little lists to talk about. Should we talk through? I tell you what, let's look at Steve Curtis's. Because Byron, you're playing Steve, so it'd be a nice little one to start with. It's a genuinely interesting list from Steve, who's known for playing Death. He is taking Soulblight Gravelords, but it's not. The most common list I've seen from that book is a zombie spam, or like dire wolf spam. It isn't that. So he's got his Legion of Blood. He's got Big Drog Fort Kicker, who we mentioned earlier, who's the mercenary Gargant for the Death faction. He's got a Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, who's his general, pretty classic tool up. So Aura of Dark Majesty. He's got Fetid Miasma, Flaming Weapon, a Necromancer with Arcane Tome, first of our 27 Arcane Tomes. Of course he has. And then we get into more unusual choices. So Gorslab the Gravekeeper, who's the character from
Bargain.
What the called?
Is he the one who poops out doggies for a CP?
No, he automatically returns Deadwalker zombie unit without having to roll. That's why he's got a unit of 40 Deadwalkers. So
super good. He's only 75 points as well. So
it's obviously an error they still haven't corrected.
It's totally nuts, that costing. Ridiculous.
He's still a wizard.
So he's 40. Is he? I didn't know he was a wizard.
I think he is. I might be wrong.
He's probably got his own arc.
Whether he is or isn't, he's there for bringing back some dead boys, isn't he?
So he's super good. So those 40 Deadwalker zombies you're not getting rid of particularly easily. He's got 2 units of 5 Black Knights. He's got I don't know why his cogs are there in the list, but he's got cogs. 20 Grave Guard.
Oh, why they're up higher there? Yeah, I don't know. But
and then
probably
3
use the app.
combat.
Oh yeah, created with the Age of Sigmar app, not War Scroll.
There we go.
That's why it's up there.
So
that's a list penalty then.
Because he's why do we get list penalty for that kind of nonsense?
I'm kidding. Yeah, everyone would get one, right?
You'd always starting on a penalty. The amount of things I had to put right in people's lists, ridiculous. John Dale. So I really like it. I said to Steve when he submitted it, like it's fun. It isn't spamming anything. I quite like what I call a toolbox list, which is a list that like competes in lots of different areas of the game. I think he's got a couple of really interesting punchy units. I think he's got some interesting magic options. He's got some really good board control with those kind of big blocks of zombies, a graveyard, the speedy little black knights. It's interesting, and Steve knows well. He's been out of the game for a while because obviously he's had a child thing, but he historically knows what he's doing. Children,
A child thing.
Child thing. Foolish boy. He knows what he's doing. He has been at the top of his game. Interesting to see how this list does and how Steve does in like a completely changed meta since he's last played competitively. So Byron, it's yours to potentially lose, although you've not historically played lots of games recently.
I've played none games.
He's gone low drop as well, which is interesting because he's got Battle Regiment and Command Entourage. So
he has.
Drop?
I think he's forward. So this is what I mean. So I had to do those stats. I had to count how many drops some people's armies were because they didn't submit the numbers themselves. That should be a points penalty, to be honest. So I think 4 drops. Interesting. I would happily play with that list. I've not played Death for ages.
Yeah, it looks super funky.
Run that. Yeah, funky tech. I know the Gargant dude doesn't count as that many. Like, doesn't get mighties right here, but it's still 35 wounds,
damage, wounds, decent save, good best day ever recipient.
Yeah, it'll be off the scale for wounds. I mean, most of which are going to get recycled. So good luck shifting it. Nurgle levels of grindy tedium on certain objectives. Have fun, Byron. And just FYI, you can't take a Gargant off with a Maw Crusher using Destroyer. I've tried and failed on 2 separate occasions. Russ looking at me because I think he's just worked out that math doesn't work even on a good day.
No, I was literally looking at my second monitor, which is under my camera, and looking at Big Drog Fort Kicker's special rule, because you get special rules for the Mercenary Gargants. And here's his Grievous Halitosis, which is the end of the combat phase. Pick an enemy unit within 3 inches. Roll a number of dice equal to the number of models from that unit that are within 3. For every 6, they take a mortal wound. So it's like a mortal wound breath.
Not bad.
Just okay. No. But might be good against Nighthaunt, I guess. But
yeah, there's plenty of it about. So tasty little list. I like that one. Where should we go next? So look at Max Sewell, whose list I did bring up a minute ago. Let me just find it. So Max, if you've not seen his army, it's another one that I'm going to tell you to go and have a look at.
He's still sticking with Archie on them.
He is. Well, you played him at the team event, didn't you? And he just edged the win, I think, against you.
Every time I see him, he's playing the same scenario.
It's because we were playing the Vice, so it was. I played him at the event before not the South Coast, Hampshire GT, and I beat him there with Idenef, and then I played him in the team event, and then I've been on the tables next to him a lot. This is the sort of list is why I've got the Purple Sun, because I can't touch Archeon without it, and it's not very likely anyway. But at least it's got an option to do something to him.
It's an option. It's a disgustingly, distractingly beautiful army, but it's pretty much the only Archeon at the event. There's very few Slaves to Darkness lists, although they are pretty good Slaves to Darkness lists that are attending. So he's Archeon with the Mark of Zeech. He's got a couple of we've got a Sorcerer Lord, a Chaos Lord, who has got the Arcane Tome. There's another one. 3 Vanguard, both with the Mark of Zeech. Iron Golems. He's got a few of the little Warcry bands actually. Iron Golems, Untamed Beast ×2, and then he's got Cogs and the Purple Sun. So there's some classic choices there. He's gone low drop as well, so he's only 3 drops. I picked this because really I wanted to just pick on Archeon and see how he gets on in the Purple Sun meta. I think in at least one game he's going to lose Archeon to one of the...
It's division, isn't it? Because does he ignore spells on a 4+? Archeon.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so you've got 1 in 6 times 1 in 4, 1 in 20. time his amount of turns, he could dodge some. But the moment someone sees it, they're going to try, right? He's asking for it.
The only thing I would care about in that whole game would be getting Purple Sunny and Archaon off, and I'm not the only person with that insane mentality.
That's a magnet.
Yeah,
I am going to talk about Stephen Follow's list because it's Corretron Overlords, but it's amazing because it's also Red Dwarf themed. So he's called the list Boys from the Dwarf, and he's got Dave Lister, which is the aphid chemist. I don't know why they're themed. I hope he's modelled all of this. It would be amazing. So he's got the collector trait, means you get an extra artifact, spell in the bottle, obviously. Then you've got Arnold Rimmer. He's got his flare pistol. You've got Crichton, who's the admiral. He's got the staff of ocular optimization. Then you've got the cat, which is another admiral. Then he's got the talkie toasters, so 10 Arcanauts. The revolving toilets, 10 Arcanauts. The scutters, 10 Arcanauts. The Dwayne Dibley Appreciation Society, which are 10 Thunderers. Dwayne Dibley. The Red Dwarf itself, which is his Ironclad. Starbug, which is the other Ironclad. He's called his Endless Spell Queeg 500, which is one of my favourite Red Dwarf episodes, which is the Rune of Petrification. So I think it's awesome, and Steve's a very good player, so I'm sure
he's going to play the tits off that, isn't he?
Yeah,
he's a very, very good player.
I just love the fact.
Did you say similar to an event in the States last week?
No, it's not. It's he was, because I'm in the ETC chat. He was talking about that list. And taking KO, but that was a while ago. So obviously he's been nerding on it and decided to go with double Ironclad, because I think Richie was talking about double Ironclads as well. So, and he's gone Zilfin. So I mean, I'd be interested to see how it does. I think it'll do very well, but because it's Steve. But I just love the fact that he's themed it all around Red Dwarf, and I really hope the army is themed as in painted and modelled to reflect the theme, and that he's got a big green Ironclad called Starbug and a big red one, and he's got a little man on the side painting the side of the Red Dwarf. I love it. So, and hopefully the cat is in a big golden spacesuit, and Lister's got Dayglow orange moon boots. If you don't know anything about Red Dwarf, I'm sorry, that's going to take you down a bit of a sidetrack, but maybe he'll end up marooned in the event in the mid-table.
I think you should do all right with that.
Do fine.
I wouldn't know what to do with it. I so rarely see any KO playing.
He's a great player, and if he's taking it, he'll know it inside out and back to front.
They're actually quite strong now. Yeah, they are quite strong now. Another list to pick out. Put you on the spot.
Simon Weekly, or Simon W on there. So Simon, another good player, another strong player. I have lost to him dramatically before. He's one of the Welsh players, so he's bringing Nighthorn. He's the sole Emerald host that's coming. So he's 2 Krulgast Cruciators, 2 Dreadblade Harrows, one of which has got the Beacon of Nagashizar, one of which is a general with the Cloaked in Shadow trait, and then the Light Shard of the Harvest Moon artifact. And then battle line is 3 Spirit Hosts, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units of 5 Hex Wraiths. So it's Bamorama on the Hex Wraith.
Well,
I think he's got play.
You'll struggle with because he'll be doing it because of the Cruciator stacking for the -2 damage on everything, and then the Spirit Host will babysit them so they can bounce wounds off of, and he's got the
bump central.
It's just, and I think the reason he's Emerald Host is because you need to be Emerald Host for Hex Race to be battle line, I believe.
Yeah.
So it is, yeah. But
it is what it is.
Nightmare fuel, that list. Absolutely nightmare fuel. And he does play lists like that. I played him when he was running Zeech, so full board control, can't do anything about it. Lots of models. I wouldn't particularly want to play against that. I'm not sure I particularly enjoy playing with it, to be perfectly honest.
I just hope he plays it quickly, because
Well, he was good with Zeech, I will say that. So that kind of horror nonsense, he just constantly was up and down. He must have had a bad back after that event, like getting stuff out of his case. So I think he'll be fine. He's not one of those players who runs to the time. In my limited experience of
got 3 war
seeing,
scrolls, remember? Should be all right.
Exactly. Well, we were talking about 3 war scroll lists being the dream, weren't we, last night? But yeah, he's not quite there, but not actually that far off either. We talked about your list, Russ. So I'm sort of running through my top 10 of lists I think could take the event. Should we take a quick gander at Joe Purcell? This is pretty much just like pointing at the standard Daughters of Cain list.
Would have been one of my picks, actually, for sure. It's just solid.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you looked at Phil Marshall's list, he's probably running Nighthaunt, right? Because he's switching from the Archeon list that he was running. But yeah,
let's look at Phil.
We'll do Joe first because I'm on that, and then we could talk about.
Okay, I can't find Joe's list, but you talk about Joe's list.
Joe's list is Marathi. So he's playing Calibron. It seems everyone takes what's theirs as their strategy. Malusi Iron Scale, who's the general, with the Zealous Orator and the Artifact Crown of Woe, which is kind of the standard ones you take. 15 Bloodstalkers, 25 Blood Sisters, Reinforced times 2, sorry. 5 Blood Sisters, it's just a really bad format. And 10 Blood Sisters. So yeah, it's 15 Bloodstalkers. Like I say, you can't have 25. So it's 15 Bloodstalkers, 5 Blood Sisters, 10 Blood Sisters, 9 Shadow Stalkers, 5 Heart Renders. So that's Daughters of Cain.
Everything in the world is going crazy. Just turn up with something that's been strong for forever and will be strong for forever, and hope for some particular scenarios go and smash face.
I'm not sure. Like, I think you need to be. I mean, obviously, the biggest strength for Daughters is you've just got all those battle tactics that are easy. But I don't know if he's built the list with enough of those different units to do that, though. Like, he hasn't got like.
Does he get a free unit of?
Renders,
I was going to say, does he get a free unit of Harpies from anywhere? No.
So I don't know. It for me, and this will sound a bit bizarre, I think it's too all rounder. I think it needs to be more specialized. Like, if you go in snakes,
encourages balance.
I'm not sure Calibron's the right temple. So Joe of the past would have spanned. I've been played lots of Joe's armies that have been a bit like that, but I think 27 Skyfires, 120 Arcanauts with sky hooks, you name it. But I think I don't know. I don't know if the list needs to just be more. I think people are worrying too much about killing stuff when they write lists in Age of Sigmar in general. And really what they should be doing is, what battle tactics can I do every turn, and how do I survive and exist? And that's why I think like Simon Weekly's list, which don't think it does a lot of damage, but it don't die.
Look sexy.
And it's fast. And it's going to be all over all the objectives and blocking you in. You ain't going to kill much. And it's literally just going to be death by 1,000 dice rolls.
Also doesn't care about purple, so one bit.
You just win.
Chunks of Yeah. It's
you say that, but if you drop those 2 Cruciators, you'll care. So he does care, honestly.
The reason I put this as a top 10 potential, I mean, my knowledge of Daughters of Cain is limited. Joe's is extensive. It's a bit like you and your OBR. It's like leaning into a list that you've got muscle memory on, which is really why Joe decided he wanted to take this list back to what I said at the outset, which is people have just said that they kind of want to go for shits and giggles this weekend, which is great. And that's really why Joe's taking this. And he's probably leaned slightly deliberately away from it being a spam list so other people can enjoy playing Daughters of Cain. But I still think Joe's got play and potential with this because he knows what he's doing with the army, and there's a lot of soft scoring at my event. So if Joe is all right with my secondaries and picks up a relatively good amount of sports points, which he will because it's Joe, then I think that he could still probably find himself in the top 10 for the event, if not.
100%.
Pick up stuff sports while you're not trying to remember 5,000 new things as well, isn't it? It's really helpful.
Yeah, and I'm not. I 100% don't disagree with you saying, "Oh, he's going to do well." I wasn't trying to say that this was bad. I just surprised it wasn't a little bit more skewed, I guess is probably what I'm saying.
Repainting
I think it's the
consideration.
Daughters of Cain list in sort of in the spirit of the event, as much as that is even slightly possible. So it's slightly less offensive than Daughters of Cain list.
Maybe he wants to think when he plays.
Who wants to think?
Okay, moving on.
I think thinking is so important.
So Phil's army is, I like his name. It's 10 drops, no cup, because obviously no cup for Archeon, and he's gone 10 drops. Should have been 2 drops really, but stay on theme. So Scarlet Doom. He's got Alan, the Drowner, a Guardian of Souls, double Spirit of Torment, double Cruel Gas, Cruciator, obviously. 30 Blade Geist, 20 Blade Geist, 3 Spirit Hosts, 4 Myrmorns. Those Blade Geist Revenants are Glacier Veterans, and they're in Bounty Hunters. They are going to absolutely truck and do all those mortal wounds. That is, I mean, I like the list. The Myrmorns gives you the spell protection as well, because they've got the ignore roll. Yeah. Which is good purple sun protection as well. Probably a bit small, the unit for that, because you probably want the extra bonus.
8, I think. Yeah, he's not. There's not many weak spots in that. I mean, if he loses some of those support heroes, but then he's kind of doubled up and everything. So
I just think the units are there's too many heroes. Like I'd rather see another unit of like 20 Grimgas in there, because at least it gives you a screen, it gives you something, bodies, it gives you, I don't know. It's a little bit like you've got all these heroes to buff these 2 units, but if the units just die, you're going to be like, what am I going to do now?
But what can kill? Like what is going to die? Like stab through 30 Bladecast Revenants in a round?
I mean, there's only 30 wounds. Like you say that, but I mean, I know he's got the damage reduction and stuff like that. But if you get something with just like damage 1, the damage reduction doesn't do anything. And so, like sort of like just if you just took like 30 Witch Elves into that, and that would do so much damage. It's just weight of dice, loads of dice. No rend. You don't care, because you don't care about rend anyways. You just want weight of attacks.
I've always do it actually, like with Bounty Hunters with like War Chanter on them. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like you say, 30 wounds. What's that actual base save? Is it 4 or 5?
4. Everything's 4, basically.
Unless
4
it's Chain Gust, yeah.
That's the only unit with
the Chain Gust not worth taking anymore.
No,
because you say like, are they just rubbish now?
Yeah, always been rubbish. I've never taken them.
Bit too cheap.
Honestly, I think Grimgast are the best unit in the book. I mean, the good thing about the Blade Geist, if they charge you, it's horrific because they do all the mortal wounds on the charge. I just think there are armies that can charge that, and they're going to negate the fact. I know you got retreat and charge, so maybe he wants you to charge him, he absorbs it, he retreats, he charges, he does loads of mortals. I'm sure he'll do very well with it. I'm sure it's a good list. It's not a bad list. I was just a bit surprised that he's got 6 heroes and only like 2 combat units, and the other 2 units are support units. So he's basically got 2 units that do something.
Always been a temptation with that book, hasn't it?
Yeah,
historically.
Yeah, I mean,
spoiled for choice for the heroes.
Don't get me wrong; those 2 units are nails, because you've got the spell protection, you've got the double negative damage, you've got all the buffs that you can put on. You can give them a 5-up ward. They can retreat and charge and do the mortals every turn. There's a nails army. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sure he'll do very well.
Get the reps in with it. I mean, Phil practices like no one else I know.
Well, that's why he'll do well, because he'll be honed with it.
Surgical, yeah.
You're getting him at the start of his run, because last time he took Archeon for a year and he played like billions of games. And then by the end of it, he was like very, very strong. Probably the best Archeon player in the country at that point, I believe, because he was that practiced. But it's just nice to see him back playing Warhammer. So I'm interested to see how he gets on, honestly. And hopefully I can get a rematch against him, but not with that list.
Okay. Why he declined the grudge?
Did he grudge me? I didn't know that. So.
Why you talked to me about it? Maybe he didn't
grudge me. So,
Someone said that his list would be a nightmare. Oh no, it was Max Saul. No, it wasn't you. Should we talk about one of the wild card lists? So I think they're the big hitters. There's possibly one or two of the big. Oh, just talk about Toby Meadows' list before we move, because he's also taking something. It's a bit unusual, but a bit like Phil has got the reps in with it. I don't really know what's going on with this list, but
it's Knights of the Empty Throne, yeah. So.
It is Knights of the Empty Throne, yeah. It's one of the White Dwarf ones, I think.
Some powerful jank.
I think it's the Wrath of the Everchosen. He probably needs 6 books to play it. Let's put it that way. It's Slaves to Darkness, right? So,
hey, if someone's capable of playing 6 books like a gent, remembering all of his rules perfectly, it's him.
Well, you'll need the White Dwarf update. You'll need the Broken Realm book. You'll need Wrath of the Everchosen. You'll need Slaves to Darkness, and probably the General's Handbook, FAQ, and White Dwarf updates.
So, more than when I last played Nurgle, when he did like 7 different. Well, it wasn't 7. That's exaggerating. There was at least 4 different books to actually have all the rules.
Painful.
I need a photocopy and a laminator.
So
I'll read through this. So it's Slave to Darkness. So Knights of the Empty Throne. So there's a special rule where the Varangard is effectively counted as a leader. So he's got a unit of 6 Varangard, who's the general with Demon Forged Blade, Command Trait Inescapable Doom. Everything's got the markers each. He's got another unit of 6 Varangard with the Corrupted Nullstone. Then he's got a Sorcerer Lord and a Sorcerer Lord, both with the markers each. And then his battle line is Iron Golem spam. 1, 2, 3, 4 units of Iron Golems, and the lovely Mind Stealer Sphinx and a Chaos War Shrine. So it's a really
the only squishy thing in that list. Everything else is tough.
Basically, all the Iron Golems get to free up reroll 1s, I think, if they don't move. So if they don't like charge and stuff,
or that's one or something.
The Mind Stealer Sphinx, the markers inch is reroll 1s, so that's why it's spammed everywhere. The Mind Stealer allows you to go ASL. You put a dice. If you get the same number, then you're not. But everyone else, you always strike last. You've got the 2 Sorcerer Lords that commit +1 armor save on the 2 units of Varangard and they've both got the teleport spell for backup. I guess the Nullstone is an anti-magic thing, but I think they've got an Expel It anyway.
Maybe they got a double.
So I don't know what it does. And I think the Grasping Plate is you can't retreat against them. So if they're in combat with you, you're not allowed to retreat.
These Vanguard are incredibly
and they're
tough.
free up rerolling 1. So it's like a horrendous army to play against. And the War Shrine gives you a 6-up ward. So
that's scary without the Iron Golems, just those Vanguard.
Yeah.
Chunking around. Yeah.
What's the bubble on that ward say for us? For the shrine?
It's I think it's 18 and it goes down when it gets hurt, or it's 15, something like
that. That's disgusting.
So basically, the whole army's on like a free up reroll 1s.
That's the type of army that's going to do
with a 6-up ward, which
without needing damage.
And the teams of Varangard just chew your army to bits while the Iron Golems exist.
He won't even need the damage, but he's got it.
Toby's podium that I think every one of my events that he's been to. So with that, I don't think that's.
And the Varangard obviously got the fight twice thing as well. I'm not sure. I don't know how they work with stuff like heroic actions and all that stuff. I really don't know how they work because there's probably like a billion FAQs. Because
they were good before any of the stuff.
I think it was before AOS 3 came out, so I don't know how it all interacts now. So good luck on that one, Alex, with all the rules questions.
Yeah, no rules questions.
That'll be a lot of
it all. He always does.
Do you want to do like one off the wall list and then?
Yeah, I was going to do a wildcard list. Well, I was going to talk about one of the Stormcast Dragon lists, but then I remember that I just hate them more than life itself.
Just like GW.
So,
unless they've taken the big guy or something.
No.
There is one with Karazai, which is the one that's not rubbish. Yeah, so it's going to take me ages to find it. I wanted to actually talk about Neil Peckett's list. Because he's a good buddy of mine, and he's taking a not offensive Seraphon list. So 3 out of the 4 Seraphon players are taking not particularly horrible Seraphon lists.
Good odds.
Which is the turn up for the books. So Neil has also lent very much into my secondaries, which is one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this. I think his list is built almost entirely around trying to get that Phoenix Award. So he's got a Blackheart Fleet Master, which is an ally, which he will try and get killed in one game, so he can get the
ally. Why not?
They cost nothing. He's got Croak, General. He's got a Saurus Astrolith Bearer with, guess which artifact?
Arcane Tome.
The Arcane Tome. Who'd have guessed? He's got
It's Manticore Venom, but then I remembered your graph.
A little chode of a graph. Starseer with Incandescent Rectus. I can't say that. He's got a Pterodon whatever. Rectum Multitudes. 10 Saurus Guards, 20 Saurus Warriors. What is it? 9. 2 units of 10 Skinks, both of which are in Expert Conquerors. I think they're such a good unit for Expert Conquerors because they're a little pain in the backside to get rid of. So you skipping them around an objective.
They don't get the minus damage anymore, though, which is nice.
Well, yeah, that is tasty. A Bastillodon with Solar Engine. He's got a Purple Son of Shage, which we tasted. There's cliches in this list. And he's got 6 Pterodon Riders. So there's 2 or 3 of my objectives that he's built into. So 2 flying units, because there's on a secondary where you have to have 2 flying units an objective. I famously hate Seraphon. For a number of different reasons, but I would happily play against that because it is kind of a bit of a smorgasbord of the things that they have to offer from their list. I like
3 of the things that people complain about most frequently in there, which is kind of nice to see.
Yeah, okay, got a Basti, but there's only one of them. That's not quite as horrible. It is coalesced, so a lot of stuff is giving you the -1 damage. He's a bit of a wild card. I don't know how Neil will do with the list. He doesn't play a lot, but he has historically been a very good Warhammer player. He's played a lot with Seraphon over the past few years. I think they are for most of us, to be honest. But he's quite competitive. He takes it very seriously. I thought it was a nice.
I like the fact.
Seraphon.
I like the fact it looks like an army.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Because you've got you've got the Saurus Guard, which are like your Temple Guard of old. You've got a big unit of Saurus. You've got a couple units of Skinks, a couple monsters. You've got the Slan. It's going to look really nice as an army. It's going to be like you've got like a unit of cavalry. It's actually going to look like what I would if someone went back to like I don't know how old I was when it came out, but that sort of like it's a draw me a Lisbon army. And you drew, I want one of those. It would look very similar to that. So yeah. I do think that's a cool list because it doesn't make me want to puke in my mouth, even though it's Seraphon.
Grind well as well.
So
skated the line nicely, I think. That
it's very much borderline because it is still okay. It's been slightly muted, but it is still a pretty offensive army. If you want it to be.
I mean, Croak on his own is kind of like, he breaks a core mechanic of dying in the game, so it's
a bit of an issue. There's only just take one last quick look at the other Seraphon list because 3 out of 4, sorry, I know, but yeah, the other one isn't that bad either. So if you draw Seraphon at the event and you are terrified and roll your eyes at the horror you're going to have, then you're in for a pleasant surprise.
It'd be like when we made the few changes to make Lumineth less egregious and people are actually okay with playing them. So
if you go down to the jungle today, be a nice surprise.
Hugh Wilson's list got Gotrek and a Dread Saurian, so I'm not sure they're nice surprises.
Today the Lisbon got their FAQ.
There's not a lot else there. So I think that's quite a nice one because I famously hate Seraphon and there's no.
Did you say there was 3 of them? Does that mean one's Papa Bear, Baby Bear, and Mama Bear?
No, there's 4. One's Saurus.
He's Goldilocks.
Yeah, Goldilocks.
You should have the Goldilocks Award for the person who wins out of. I don't know. It makes no sense.
There are enough awards at the event. The ceremony will last almost. I'd just be slinging fingers at people.
Oh yeah! Wow, that's no different to any other Saturday, is it?
On that bombshell.
Yeah, cool. So we talked through a bunch of lists. We talked about the event, talked about our lists. your predictions. You said you had a top 10. What, or do you have a thing of like, I think this is the list, this is the player? I mean, you mentioned Toby, but do you have anyone you think is gonna?
I do. I genuinely do think Toby could take it. So the top 10 players, I think, probably will end up in the top 10 or podium. So we haven't talked about all these lists, but Dan Arnold, Gareth Johnson, Joe Purcell, Max Barton, Max Sewell, Russ Veal. Simon Wheatley. Well, yeah, Simon Wheatley. Oh, I tipped you before and I looked an idiot. Simon Wheatley, Steve Curtis. I've actually said Pete Brizio as well, but I think that was in a moment of generosity.
No, come on. I've played in a team with him. That ain't happening.
No, I know. Pete beats himself.
If Pete wins,
games.
I can I personally give him the reward myself. Can I present it to him?
I will give you that honour. That's fine. So they were some of my tips, and you can tell that I don't really know what I'm talking about because of some of the people in there. I think that if I'm honestly was putting money on it, I think I'd bet on Toby Meadows.
I'd be surprised if Toby or Steve weren't in the top 3. Not both of them, but if either of those aren't in there,
Steve?
I'd be surprised. KO
follows. Yeah, I think follows. I think Simon for me, Simon Wheatley, but I'm not sure he'll win it. Follows. The problem with KO, they do require things to go their way. Toby, I think, is a good shout to be on the podium. I actually think Phil Marshall could podium. There's a lot.
I wouldn't discount. There's so much soft scoring as well,
yeah.
Which I know some people just fucking hate when it comes to podiums. But there's a lot to pick up for sports.
Both of those guys do quite well for very, very good players for sports.
Yeah,
quite a few of those do actually get listed.
Well, Steve does, Toby does, Phil does, all do really well. Max Sewell's done quite well for sports recently, and then
he's
the painting point.
Painting, isn't he? So it's.
Yeah, I mean, I think Toby's army. I haven't seen Toby's army up front in person, but I think his armies usually look relatively good.
Definitely
so it could be. Steve Curtis's painting is pretty on point.
It is good.
I can't speak for some of the other guys that I've mentioned there. I've seen his spells. He's repainted a couple of things, so I don't know. I think that could swing it. Ultimately, that is what swung it last in May. There were only a few points between first and second, and it came down ultimately to sports that just kind of moved around those top 5 or 6 players. So we shall see. It'll be interesting.
Max Barton's gone Nurgle, so that's because I spoke to him at Just Play, and he was talking about Nighthorn or Nurgle or what, and I said, like, and he's gone Nurgle. That'd be interesting. He's quite a good player. So
Nurgle are really good in this edition, I think. And
it's all free. It's the Pascoils that are bounty hunters. So
yeah,
interesting. Arcane Tames there. Why not? Blowab and Morbidix and Orguts. So he's got triple Maggot Lord. Awesome. I love that.
That's the list.
2 Lord of Afflictions as well. So 2 Lord of Afflictions, Orguts, Morbidix, Blowab. Wow. I love that list.
Very, very good. Yeah, that's an extremely good list. Could come unstuck against,
body spam. Podium with that weekend, hasn't he? Did he? Was he second or third at Warhammer World?
I didn't follow.
Or did he win it?
I know Tinsdale comes second. I didn't follow it.
I think he won it then. I was Pete Brizio's teammate. Pete win it. Podium Pete. He was there, so I think Max did win that. I don't know whether that was the exact list, but I wouldn't imagine it was
that be much similar because you had to submit it before.
Yeah.
I think it's the same list.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great list. It does feel a little bit like the old edition list, but I think he'll do well. So
Nurgle book's so strong.
Yeah,
he's the only one with 3 named heroes.
Mm-hmm. Luckily, they're all a bargain.
I was. I did write a list with Catacross, Arcan, and Xantos in Mortis Praetorian, and I was tempted, but I didn't take it. So
maybe next time.
Maybe
I've got a team event. Take it.
Yeah, I do like my Catacross. He's
take it for your teams.
Yeah, why not? We've got that coming up in November, so
yeah. We've got a nice little team as well. Very nice team.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Alex, and talking Warhammer. It's been a while. I know people who follow the channel probably thought, "Where have you been?" Been on holiday, and it's been too hot, and we've been on a bit of a break.
Gonna have an interesting episode soon where we talk about the Comfort FACEHAMMER, aren't we? We've done some research on this.
Yes.
Actually, I've done more research about this than I have actually doing Warhammer itself.
And the reason the pack's not been forthcoming is we wanted to get some opinion, but also we wanted to kind of think a little bit more and sort of marinate the current state of the game. And I probably will wait until after the weekend to finalize it. But we will do a show on it as well, because with some of the opinions we got have been not too far away from what we were discussing before, Byron.
I reckon like between 70 and 80% is stuff that we'd already spoken about. And it is actually measurable because it was numbered what we have collected data on.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting.
But as a teaser for people who are coming and want to know what the comp is, basically we're going to write our own battle pack, and we're going to not use the General's Handbook battle pack, and there'll be changes to things like battle tactics, formations. Arcane Tome will probably not be allowed. There'll be changes to things like Purple Sun, Launchian, and Chromatic Cogs. There'll be...
You see all the stuff in my pies and donuts isn't going to be allowed.
There's a reason it's all there, isn't it? And we're gonna disrupt that a little bit. I'm also gonna clarify, in my opinion, that the Cruelghast doesn't stack the Cruciator, because I think that's gonna come in the future anyway. Because I don't think it should stack. I don't think you should be negative.
There's a bunch of stuff that we can.
Yeah. So
a little bit fiddle with. People should expect though, like if you're coming to the event and you haven't done many events, we're not going to make it any more hard. We're only going to make it more simple. We will be more likely to be removing decision fatigue and analysis paralysis from you. So
so the idea is to make it more streamlined, a little bit more fun to play, and a little bit less bookkeeping, and a little bit more, because I actually think the game at a base level, there's enough going on for tactical depth. You don't need all these layers. Because when we used to play OS2, none of it existed and the game was still great. So I don't, you know, people could say there were things that were wrong with it. I'm sure, I know there was. The
fact you get to decide a 2,000 point army and your opponent turns up the random 2,000 point army is enough variety, right?
Yeah. Plus the scenario play and the rules of those armies. You don't need layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of changing all these things.
No.
So
you've got a special head like me as well. You should actually be able to feel like you can understand the game. Be helpful for everyone.
And hopefully, if it's successful, then it will be something we continue to write a FACEHAMMER battle pack for our events and not use the General's Handbook, because I think that there's something to be said for people who don't have to relearn the game every 6 months, because honestly, it's or put their armies on a shelf until they become good again, or sell them.
Well, I mean, the issue with a cycle that short is you should be making such soft changes that barely anything changes, because it's so short that people don't have enough time to buy something, build something, paint something, and react to it. But then, by definition, what's the point? Or if you do make changes that are too big, that's a really gross error in of itself anyway. Like, I think giving some things +1 damage is
very knee-jerky
decisions ever. Yeah, you can't even analyze the data at that point.
For me, the issue you've got is the last handbook. It's all about monsters, and this one is like all that's gone out the window, and you've got all this like plus damage, bounty hunter, all these weird missions, and it's just like it's just too much change. Not only that, you're changing points, you're putting battle scroll in, you put in this, you put in that. You've got White Dwarf updates flying at you. You've got a new book coming every month. It's just like, come on, guys, just slow it down. It's getting a bit crazy for me.
Calm down.
Just
absolutely that. I'm quite excited to share it with people.
Yeah, we will share it in detail, talk through it, and I'm sure I know there are people who disagree, and that's fine. It's completely fine. I'm not saying they'll be all end all. It's just that whenever I run an event, and I'm sure Alex, you're the same, run an event that you want people to come to that you want to play in yourself. So that's what we're going to plan to do.
I'm always annoyed that I don't get to play in my events because they always look fun. But I'm coming to FACEHAMMER to play and just get to do a quiz later on.
Yes,
maybe?
Yeah, if you want to,
yeah. Well, I'll do it whether you want me to or not, but I want to.
There you
Yeah,
go.
just beep, 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 beep. Brilliant. I need to dash, chaps.
So do we. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
for having me.
3 days.
No, it's been
Hopefully
good
both
to
of
have
you.
you on. Yes, and I'll see you in a couple
Magic.
of days if the trains are running.
Yeah, for pie and waffle. I look forward to it.
Yeah.
No,
Right,
the
guys.
waffle is in chat. Waffles.
As in
probably.
actual waffles, I'm there. I'll get there by hook or by crook. So
It's not waffle.
yeah,
Lovely.
amazing.
Thank you very much.
Cheers,
for that,
chaps.
Alex. See you in a bit.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
See, thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.